Right, we've got them. The new VV licence rule. What does it mean for you if you've got a rental property? What does it mean for you if you want to buy a rental property? There's one thing we can be certain of for the next 5 years. Right, we've got them. The rules are here. They might not be clear, but I think they're clearer than they used to be. A new law was recently passed 12th of November detailing the new Vivienda Vacacional, the VV licence rules. Are they going to be clearer? Are they going to be implemented? What does it mean for you if you've got a rental property? What does it mean for you if you want to buy a rental property? There's one thing we can be certain of for the next 5 years: no more licences. So as of now, everything stops. No more licences are going to be awarded throughout the whole of the Canary Islands. There's a moratorium on all VV licences. So the law is really clear. If you're looking to buy a property in the Canary Islands and you want a VV licence, you're not going to get it for 5 years. So the Canary Islands have passed a law for the sustainable management of tourist housing. What does that mean? Well, it replaces the old 2015 rules, which were, let's be honest, a little bit hazy. If anyone ever asked, it was always, we're in Spain. It's all a bit grey, really. So in this video, we're going to break down the 5-year ban, the new 10% rule, and also the 10-year rule about new builds. And if you're thinking that you're sitting pretty and you've got your licence already and this doesn't apply to you, it probably does, and it's going to be of interest to you as well. Because there's a specific clause in this new law, and it's called classified activity. That turns your property into a public business. And with that comes a list of strict safety rules, like specific electrical upgrades, widths of doors, fire extinguishers, all the sort of safety things you'd expect. I'll give you a little rundown of that a bit later on. You can do your best to not get your licence revoked. The headline uses a 5-year ban on all new licences. No Canary Island is going to give any more VV licences for the next 5 years. Well, that's the plan anyway. Basically, the government wants to stop all the Airbnbs. They're just taking over the island. And it's true, the locals just can't find anywhere to live. So by banning new VV licences, that's the first step in this plan. Things were just going too fast, really, and the town halls just couldn't control it. From the law in 2015, they were pretty much giving licences left, right and centre, as long as the property had a window and a door. But now the new law is going to say no more than 10% of the housing stock in any municipality can be allowed to be rented on a VV licence. So that pretty much means that a Rona and a Decade are out. There must be more than 10% of the housing stock already attributed to VV licences. There are going to be towns and town halls that haven't got quite 10%, and they are, once they've got things sorted out, allowed to start awarding VV licences again. That might be a little tip off to some people that might consider buying for a VV licence. If you still want to buy, go and find one of those town halls that is going to be a little bit quicker in getting themselves sorted out, and then start allowing VV licences again. But with most towns full, Los Cristianos, Las Americas, Costa Decade, all of the towns along there, they are absolutely well over the 10% limit. So no more licences at all for any of those towns for 5 years or more. That 10% rule is actually edged up to 20% for some of the green islands, La Gomera, El Hierro and La Palma as well. So they'll be allowed up to 20% registered VV licence properties. And there's another part to this law that we need to consider. Any new developments built today have to wait 10 years before they can even think about applying for a VV licence. So this is to stop investors from building pseudo hotels where they sort of make their development for residential purposes but then kind of turn it into all VVs. Okay, so let's get back to what I was talking about at the start of the video. Those of you with VV licences now, this is going to interest you, because if you're what's termed a small owner, so you don't own many properties at all on VV licences, you're going to be safe, but there's a condition. Your Airbnb, your Booking.com isn't now considered just your personal home and you're just renting it out once in a while. It's now a classified activity. So effectively you're running a public business. It's a bit like a bar or a hotel. That means you could have to upgrade your property in the next 6 to 12 months to follow these rules. It's mainly about health and safety. So fire safety is obviously a massive one. You need a fire extinguisher. In fact, the rules say you need a fire extinguisher every 15 metres. And you need illuminated green exit signs which illuminate if the power goes off. You've got to have your electrical system all up to date. There's something called a bulletin electrico, so you need to get all that in order as well, just to make sure that everything's up to date. You're using the latest fuses, and there's no wires hanging out of walls and things like that. If you've got paper-thin walls like some complexes have, you might even need to put in soundproofing. And probably the hardest rule that you're going to have to meet is the accessibility rule. So if your property's on the ground floor or has a lift, the property's got to be wheelchair friendly. So that means doors need to be wheelchair friendly, and that means they need to be at least 80 centimetres wide. But it does seem to me that properties that don't have a lift and that aren't on the ground floor are not going to be affected by this rule, probably because you couldn't get a wheelchair up the stairs anyway. So what about the paperwork and the timeline? You can't just buy a fire extinguisher and just call it done. They're going to need a proper report on it. So you need to call in some expert advice. And these people are going to have to produce a technical report, which is going to be signed by them to say that you meet all of the standards. So those reports are going to cost probably somewhere between 500 and 1,500 euros. So now the town halls have got 6 months to set up their inspection plans to suss out exactly what they want to do. And the law says you've got about 12 months as an owner to regularise your paperwork. So why is all this happening now? As we all know, there's been loads of people kicking off about too many VV licences, not enough properties for residents to live in. The properties that are available for residents to live in are really expensive, and that's all called gentrification. Basically, the locals and residents are being priced out of their own islands. I've got to agree, it's gone absolutely mad over the last 5 years, since COVID and the war, really. So my advice is this: don't fall asleep at the wheel. If you've got a licence, don't panic about it. You've still got 12 months before anyone's going to start really worrying about your licence. Don't just wait for an inspector to come and knock on your door. Try and contact a local architect to get them to come and review the property and see if there's anything that they think that you need to do before you can get the technical report that meets a classified activity. It's much better now to spend a bit of money on the consultation with them than getting a fine in a few years' time because you didn't do anything about it. What do you think of the new rules? I think they're fine, really. It's going to get rid of a load of terrible rental properties, and those that are just on the cusp, hopefully it will bring them up to standard as well. I think it's fair to protect the locals so they can live on their own islands. What do you think it's going to do to the market? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers for now.